In New York, Eddie is trying to pick up his van from a repair shop, but even though he's ready to pay all the money he owes for the rental, he can't clear his debt. At that moment, his daughter Sarah calls him, but he ignores her call, continuing to argue with the mechanic. Eddie explains that he needs the van to pick up his daughter and make money doing deliveries, but the mechanic doesn't care. Moments later, his ex-wife calls, chewing him out for not picking up Sarah, who's still waiting at school. She reminds him that he never puts their daughter first and hangs up. Desperate, Eddie notices a wallet left on the counter by an employee. He provokes the owner until the guy shoves him against the counter, and in that moment, Eddie deftly swipes the wallet. Once outside, he checks its contents and is disappointed to find barely any cash. He walks down the street, scanning for potential targets, but nothing catches his eye. Eddie starts yanking on car door handles, hoping to find one unlocked, but all his attempts fail. A dog in one car starts barking, startling him, but he soon wins it over by giving it some water. He also tries calling friends to borrow money, but no one helps. Even buying lottery tickets is a bust, as they all turn out to be losers. When Sarah calls again, Eddie finally picks up. She lays into him for ditching her, but admits she still loves him. After the call, Eddie spots a fancy SUV in a secluded parking lot and decides to check if the door is unlocked. To his surprise, it is. He hops in and starts rummaging for anything valuable, but only finds a pair of sunglasses. When someone walks by, Eddie quickly turns away to avoid drawing attention. Finding nothing worthwhile, he goes to leave but realizes the door is locked. Panic sets in. He tries the other doors, but no luck. When another person passes, Eddie hides again. He starts pounding and kicking the windows, but they don't even crack. Just then, a tablet on the dashboard starts ringing, showing a contact named Answer Me. Eddie ignores it and keeps looking for a way out, unaware he's being watched, through a hidden camera in the car. He finds a wrench and smacks the window, but it does nothing. When the calls stop, Eddie tries prying open the door panel and slips his hand inside, accidentally cutting himself. The tablet rings again. Eddie ignores it, still working on the door, but it won't budge. He tries calling from his own phone, but finds there's no signal. Out of options, Eddie answers the tablet's call. It's William, the car's owner. Eddie curses him out, but William just laughs and zaps him through the seat with an electric shock. He explains that the car has been targeted by thieves 6 times and none were caught, so he installed a security system that turns the vehicle into a prison. In a panic, Eddie pulls a gun from his bag and shoots at the window, but the bullet ricochets off the bulletproof glass and hits him in the leg, badly wounding him. At that moment, a woman parks nearby, and Eddie tries to signal for help, but the tinted, soundproof windows make it impossible for her to see or hear him. She just uses the car as a mirror and drives off. Eddie's leg is bleeding heavily, but William refuses to call an ambulance, claiming he's a doctor. When Eddie tries to call again, his phone still has no signal, and William says the car jams all signals. Tying his shoelaces around the wound doesn't stop the bleeding, and William keeps shocking him every time he swears. The combination of blood loss and electric shocks makes Eddie pass out. When he comes to, it's night, and rain is pounding on the roof. To his surprise, his leg and hand wounds are bandaged. He checks his bag, hoping to find something to eat, but there's nothing. The next morning, William calls again and starts telling his story, which ticks Eddie off. William triggers more shocks, then cranks up the AC and blasts yodeling music at full volume. At first, Eddie tries to convince himself the song isn't that bad, but it goes on for hours, driving him nuts. At night, he's so cold he uses the seat covers as a blanket. When William calls again, Eddie sincerely apologizes and promises not to be rude anymore. William silently turns off the AC, but still doesn't let him go. The next morning, Eddie pees into an empty water bottle, then starts trashing the car to find a way out, but nothing works. When William calls to mock him, Eddie notices someone watching the parking lot from a balcony. They start talking. When Eddie gets mouthy again, he's shocked. That doesn't stop him, and he warns William that if he lets him die, he'll be in deep trouble. Eddie says he's never killed anyone and the gun is just for self-defense, but William brushes him off, calling the police useless idiots and saying he'll never get caught. He also reveals he has cancer and only 4 months to live. He wants to change something in his life since the system's broken, so he's taking justice into his own hands. William demands Eddie's social security number to check his record. If it's his first offense, he'll go easier on him, but if Eddie has a rap sheet, he threatens to cut off his fingers like they supposedly do to thieves in some countries. Eddie refuses to give the number and argues that people steal because the system gives them no jobs while rich folks like William hoard all the wealth. Offended, William shocks him again and ends the call to restart the music. That evening, the car's temperature spikes, and Eddie has to strip to cope with the unbearable heat. The rain outside feels like it's mocking him, and he even considers drinking his urine but can't bring himself to do it. William calls and offers water and a normal temperature in exchange for the social security number. With no other choice, Eddie gives in. After getting the number, William turns off the heat and says he hid a water bottle under the seat when he patched Eddie up. Eddie chugs it and tries to sleep, but something in his jacket pocket bugs him. It's the lottery tickets he bought earlier, and one isn't fully scratched. He scratches it and laughs when he sees he's won $500. William calls to see what's going on, and Eddie, genuinely apologizing for his crime, asks for food. William decides Eddie's not a psychopath and opens the glove compartment, revealing a snack. Eddie grabs it, noticing a switch inside before the compartment closes. William hangs up to take another call, but Eddie hears his voice through the speakers, confirming he's a doctor. Then William says he has to go. Eddie sees the figure on the balcony move and realizes it's his captor. As soon as William leaves the balcony, Eddie flips off the camera but gets no reaction, meaning William's not watching. Eddie breaks open the glove compartment and snaps pictures of the schematics inside to figure out the system. He tries reaching the switch but rips a fingernail in the process. When he tries again, the seats shock him. William's back and saw what he did. The next day, Eddie's sitting in the front seat, pretending to rest, but his foot's in the glove compartment, trying to hit the switch again. Another day passes, and he's so weak, he has to drink his own urine. At night, Eddie finally hits the switch with his foot, powering up the car. He jumps into the driver's seat and tries to drive, but the car stops after a few minutes. William calls to laugh at him, and the car starts moving again, now remotely controlled by its owner. As it speeds through the streets, William plays classical music, ranting about how everyone lives in fear because crime's taken over New York. Eddie freaks out as the car goes dangerously fast. It finally stops in a dark alley where 2 thugs are beating a guy. William flashes the headlights and honks, getting the attention of one thug who lifts his shirt to show a gun. The car speeds up and hits the guy while William laughs. The second thug, scared, runs off, shooting back, but the bullets bounce off the bulletproof glass. A chase starts. The thug cuts into a side street but finds it blocked by a gate. William makes the car speed up and slam into the gate, pinning the thug's leg. As he tries to get up, the car keeps pressing him against the gate, and you can hear his bones snap. After a lot of screaming, Eddie convinces William to stop, and the car backs off. William says he'll let Eddie go if the injured guy stands up, but then he crushes the guy's skull against the gate. Furious, Eddie yells curses and William blasts the music again, sending the car racing through the streets. It weaves through oncoming traffic at breakneck speed, then barrels into a multi-story parking garage, climbing the levels fast until it hits the roof, where it speeds up to shake Eddie. He panics as the car nears the edge, but it stops at the last second, making him bash his head and pass out. In the morning, Eddie wakes up in the car, still cruising through the city. William says he visited Eddie's family and even drove Sarah to school, posing as a non-profit worker. While William rags on Eddie for unpaid child support, the car stops in front of the school, and Eddie watches in horror as Sarah walks out. She's heading home alone, and the car starts tailing her, driving close like it's going to hit her. Sarah sees the car and speeds up on her scooter, while Eddie, sobbing, apologizes with every kind word he knows. But it's not enough for William, who makes the car go faster. Desperate to stop it, Eddie grabs his gun and tries to shoot himself, but there are no bullets. William says he took them when he stitched up Eddie's wounds. For the rest of the day, Eddie stays quiet while William rants about the system. At night, Eddie snaps. He rips out all the cameras and smashes the tablet until it breaks. The car keeps going, and Eddie, trying to calm down, looks at pictures of Sarah on his phone and records a heartfelt message, apologizing for being a lousy dad. He can't send it because the signal's still jammed. Moments later, the car stops at another parking lot, and William rolls down the window to say hi. Eddie tries to attack, but William shocks him until he chills out. After spraying air freshener to cover the smell of Eddie's waste, William hands him zip ties and orders him to tie his hands. Eddie resists at first, but another shock forces him to comply. Once Eddie's hands are tied to a hook under the seat, William gets in and leaves a bag on the back seat. After putting bullets back in the gun, William lets Eddie smoke a cigarette and tosses him some gummy bears. Then he plays classical music and drives off. During the drive, Eddie asks about William's daughter, making him stop the car multiple times, causing Eddie to smack his head on the dashboard. William goes off about the younger generation and reveals his daughter was killed by thieves trying to steal his car. He even holds the gun to Eddie's head while they argue about what justice means. At that moment, Eddie, with his foot in the glove compartment, finally hits the switch, cutting the car's power. The car loses control and tumbles off a cliff, breaking Eddie's nose on the dashboard. William accidentally fires, and the bullet ricochets off the windows before hitting him in the back. The car rolls down the cliff and stops by a river, both men knocked out. In the morning, Eddie's phone sends the message since the jammer's off. Eddie wakes up first and struggles with the zip ties. He frees himself as William comes to, and a fight breaks out. In a rage, Eddie beats William and is about to shoot, but his phone rings. It's Sarah. William tells him to answer, and Eddie hears Sarah say she's worried after hearing his message. Eddie assures her he's okay and promises to pick her up later. Suddenly, the car's engine catches fire, and Eddie begs William to open the doors. But William says it was fun and dies. Eddie checks William's bag and finds a hammer strong enough to smash a window. He escapes just before flames engulf the car. He walks away with his winning lottery ticket, leaving William's body to burn. Reaching the road, Eddie meets a driver who offers him a ride. Minutes later, he heads to get his van, but the mechanic's still working on it. Not wanting to be late, Eddie sells the van to the mechanic and takes his daughter's bike. He pedals to the school where he meets Sarah and hugs her tightly.